If you're a bassist who wants to improvise and unlock chords with confidence, then this video is for you. And this is especially for you if you're feeling overwhelmed by the amount of theory and harmony that you just feel like you've got to absorb. So many bassists fall into paralysis of analysis when it comes to improv. They get overwhelmed by the scales, the modes, the substitutions, the chromaticism, the enclosures. It just feels like there's an endless amount of theory and information to learn before you can actually just start to play freely. But here's the thing, you don't need to know all the things that start to play great stuff. You just need to start focusing on the most useful, high leverage concepts first. And when it comes to improv, the 5 arpeggios that I'm going to show you today, these are the steel frame of getting your foundation going to unlocking chords quickly. If you can lock in these 5 arpeggios, you'll already have the tools to outline the building blocks of chords and harmony with confidence. And once that feels natural, you'll find that expanding beyond them is just way easier because you'll be building off a solid, super practical foundation. So instead of trying to learn everything at once and feeling overwhelmed, I'm going to try and limit that overwhelm today by giving you the first 5 chords, the first 5 arpeggios to focus on. The traditional approach of here's all your scales, now go, which is the way I learned, that can be a disservice to the aspiring improviser. As a professional bassist and bass coach, I've just seen countless students trapped in that linear, one-dimensional world of scales, unable to really connect them to the harmonic landscape. But why should you listen to me? Well, my name's Lauren Cohen. I'm a professional bassist, double bass and bass guitar, based here in New York City, and I've spent my career playing with the top names in jazz, improvising at the highest levels. I also coach bassists inside my Bass Improv Mastery program, where we focus on the very approach I'm going to show you today, this chord-first approach. We work closely together. I'm like your bass coach, and I help players in the program, just like you, go from overthinking and struggling with improvisation to playing with confidence and freedom. You can learn more about the program and how we can work together to transform your playing by clicking on the link in the description box below. Now, before we jump in, I have to make an important caveat for all the hardcore jazz players out there and advanced players. If you're one of those players, you're obviously going to have to move beyond just these first 5 arpeggios that I'm going to show you. Specifically, you're going to have to deal with diminished, you're going to have to deal with minor major 7, and you're also going to have to work on altered dominance. All right, so let's dive into the first of our 5 chords and arpeggios. The first chord we need to be able to unlock, most important chord, is major 7th, a major 7th chord. We're going to do all these from C. Notes are going to be C, E, G, and B. We have C, E, G, B. Okay, once again, C, E, G, B. We've got a major triad, C, E, G, and then a major 7th, B natural. Now the notes of all these arpeggios, when we're dealing with the root, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th, that's as far as we're getting in this video, those are commonly referred to as your chord tones, okay? When we go beyond the 7th, we get into our extensions and our alterations. I've talked about those in previous videos. Today we're just talking about 1, 3, 5, 7, just those chord tones. Let's hear this sound in action. I'm going to improvise using just these chord tones, 1, 3, 5, 7 of this C major 7th arpeggio, C, E, G, B, over a C major 7th chord. Here we go. So remember, I'm not just running a scale, I'm literally outlining the sound of this chord, the very architecture of this harmony. Now, for all the arpeggios we're going to talk about today, here's how I want you to practice them. First, I want you to just play them out of time. Okay, different places on the neck. Then I want you to sing them, okay? Sing these arpeggios. 1, 3, 5, 7. See if you can go down. 7, 5, 3, 1, like that. See if you can sing with the names of the notes. C, E, G, B, B, G, E, C, okay? Then improvise a bit with them just like I was doing. And then, as you go about your day away from the bass, I want you to drill the chord tones away from the instrument. Just drill them in your head, you know? while you're driving, while you're out walking your dog, making sure that obviously you're safe to do it. Drill this in your head, okay, C major 7th arpeggio, chord tones, 1, 3, 5, 7, C, E, G, B. So important to drill things at that head level, okay? There's so much we can get done away from the instrument. All right, moving on to our next most important chord and arpeggio, the minor 7th chord. When we talk about a minor 7th chord, a C minor 7th chord, the notes are going to be C, E flat, G, and B flat. Again, C, E flat, G, and B flat. That is a C minor 7th arpeggio. What we've got there is we've got a minor triad, C, E flat, and G. Okay, it's our minor triad, and we have a minor 7th, sometimes referred to as a flat 7th. Okay, because we're lowering that major 7th that we had earlier. So we have C, E, G. That's our triad. B flat is our minor 7th. Okay, C minor 7th arpeggio. We're going to play this on a C minor 7th chord. This is your foundation for a minor tonality. You can just have a minor triad and you can still play this and it'll sound great. Okay, now for soloing, what I want you to do is to emphasize the major triad that we get when we play off of the 3rd degree, giving us the 3rd, 5th, and the 7th. Okay, so remember we talked about C, E flat, G, and B flat. Well, from the 3rd, I've got E flat, G, and B flat. I've got a major 3rd there, okay? I sort of talked about this in a previous video that I did last week, talking about the relationship between minor 7th and major 6th. Check that out here. This is what we're going to focus on when we improvise, which I'm going to do right now. Take it up an octave. Why not? Scoop into it. Just this E flat triad. Now notice how just by focusing on that arpeggio, we're immediately creating lines playing phrases that reflect the harmonic intent. Okay, and remember how I told you I want you to practice this. First, play the notes out of time, different parts of the neck. Then I want you to sing them. Okay, so 1, 3, 5, 7, 5, 3, 1, 7, 5, 3, 1. C, E flat, G, B flat, G, E flat, C. Okay? Improvise a bit with it like I just did, and then leave your instrument, on its stand, and as you go about your day, drill these notes, drill these chord tones so you can spit these out. So when you come into the Bass Improv Mastery program and you're working with me, I can just say to you, what are the notes, the chord tones of a C minor 7th arpeggio? And you can just tell me what the notes are. Moving on to our third of our 5 most important initial chords and arpeggios. This one is the dominant 7th chord in the dominant 7th arpeggio. If we have a C dominant 7th chord, the notes we're talking about are C, E, G, and B flat, and the arpeggio, same thing. C, E, G, and B flat. Okay, I played up here. C, E, G, B flat. C, E, G, B flat. Okay. Dominant 7th is interesting because we've got a major triad, we've got C major triad, and we've got a minor 7th or a flat 7th. Okay, so we've got major and minor here. It gives this chord that sort of bittersweet sound that really defines things like the blues, where the dominant seventh is the main chord. Now, a little improv soloing trick that I'm going to demonstrate in a second when you have a dominant seventh chord is to really try and milk the third and sevenths. Okay, we call that the tritone, also called those the guide tones, the thirds and the sevenths, and they especially sound great when we're dealing with a dominant seventh chord. So if we have C dominant seventh, I'm going to really try and milk the third and the seventh, E and B flat. Let's see it in action, improvising on C dominant seventh. Here we go. As I said, just milking E and B flat first. Different ranges. Let's play 1, 3, 5, 7. Improv up those notes. So much fun you can just have by restricting yourself just to these 4 notes. And then the thirds and the sevenths again. Moving on to number 4 of our 5 most important chord types in arpeggios is the minor 7th flat 5 chord. In C minor 7 flat 5, C minor 7 flat 5, the notes are C, E flat, G flat, and B flat. Again, 1 is C, our third is E flat, 5th is G flat, and that's a flatted 5th, and then our 7th is B flat. If you're a jazz player, this is essential for one of the 2 most important progressions in jazz. In jazz, we have the major 2-5, and we also have the minor 2-5-1, and this is an essential ingredient of the minor 2-5-1 progression. It's the 2 chord of that progression. Now, one little soloing trick. If you've been watching my videos, this is something that you've heard me talk about so much. It's one of the big things that I teach in my program is how we can think about this chord, just rearrange the notes. If we take the notes and rearrange them, we get a minor 6th arpeggio. C, E flat, G, and B flat, okay? If I just take C, the root, and raise it up an octave and start on E flat, same notes, but I go E flat, G flat, B flat, C. That's what we call a minor 6th arpeggio. I have E flat, G flat, and B flat, a minor triad, and then C. If we're thinking about the key center being E flat, C would be our 6th, our major 6th. But it's the same notes, okay? C, E flat, G flat, B flat, our regular minor 7 flat 5. And if I just start from E flat, G, B flat, C, I get an E flat minor 6th arpeggio. So for soloing, it's great to think about those 2 interchangeably. This chord has a very dark sound. I'm going to improvise on it a little bit. Let's hear it in action. Take it up an octave. And the last of our 5 most important chord types that you need to know is dominant 7th with a sharp 5. So if we're doing this from C, we're going to C, E, G sharp. Okay, that's our sharp 5, and then B flat. So we have an augmented triad. C, E, G sharp, B flat. If I was going to keep going up the octave. Okay, this is where things start to get spicy. The structure is the basis for more sophisticated, altered dominant sounds that you're going to use if you're a jazz player or more sophisticated R&B, gospel, that sort of thing, where we're going to add more tension. But this is the core of those more sophisticated structures. To me, that raised fifth is the tip that we are now stepping into this sort of altered dominant territory. We can start getting into those more advanced structures. But this first 4-note core arpeggio is going to work even over all of those more sophisticated structures. Let's go up the octave. Okay, you can really start to have fun this way. Set up a backing track. I'm using iReal Pro here, and just limit yourself to the 4 notes of the arpeggio like I'm doing. And then of course practice the way we talked about practicing all our other arpeggios, making sure you can just play it out of time, making sure you can sing the notes, and then away from the instrument, making sure you can just name the notes and get it super fast. You can just spit the names of the notes out, spit those chord tones of the chord out. So those are the 5 chords, the 5 arpeggios that you need to know if you really want to start unlocking so much music. I mean, really with those 5 arpeggios, I think you can unlock pretty much 90% of American music that we have. You don't need at first to work on and develop and master every chord type and every configuration of chords out there. If you could just start with these 5, you'll have a great foundation. Music at its core is a dialogue between chords. Scales are like the alphabet. Arpeggios are really the sentences. These are the coherent expressions. You know, with arpeggios, we're not just playing notes, we're articulating the very essence of the harmony. As I say, we're opening the door of the chord, we're unlocking the chakra of the chord, and we really don't need 7 notes. 7 notes typical of our 7-note scale, 7-note modes. You know, we don't need 7 notes to start improvising confidently. As I hope you've seen, we can do that with just these 4 of the arpeggio, and then if we want to, we can add more when we're ready. Which of these arpeggios are giving you the most trouble? Which are ones that you want to work on the most? If you are playing some more sophisticated arpeggios, which are ones that you're working on? Are you more of a scale person as opposed to arpeggios? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to check out a video where I break down how to get to the extensions, how to get beyond just the chord tones on dominant 7th chords, click here.